Stop being stupid. Stop being lied to. Stop being so susceptible to the influence of other people that are just trying to rip money off from you. None of that stuff is what the rich people do.
This is the Kevin Trudeau Show.
I am exposing the corruption in government and in major multinational corporations. We're telling you the things that they don't want you to know that will make your life better.
So when you think about it, there are only 3 reasons why you fail. Number 1, you're not following the recipe, the success formula. And the success formula, there's actually an algorithm. There's actually a mathematical formula. I was talking to one of the top mathematicians in the world, and we were discussing this. Because he had called me, by the way. Danielle and I were in the car going to Leadership Weekend, and I got a phone call from a guy who's worth billions. And he was asking me a question, and it was on speakerphone. And number 1, Danielle's jaw hit the ground. She's like, who is that guy? He's your friend. Yeah. And he said, Kevin, you're the only guy in the world that I know that can answer this because you're the only guy who can see energy and move energy. And this is a super successful, wealthy guy. And he said, can you look at this guy and tell me this and that, blah, blah, blah. So he talked to one of the top mathematicians in the world who had called me, and he said, Kevin, there's a mathematical formula for success. It's an actual mathematical formula. But I can't break the code. Can you help? And in 2 minutes, I said, real simple. You're not giving numerical values to energy, emotions, or feelings. But once you do that, that answers the question. I said, I can help you with it. So we put together a formula. There's an actually mathematical formula. And here's the formula. And if you just, you can look at it. And you can say, oh, okay, the number has to equal 1,000. And if you're at 500, you're not going to achieve much success. If you're at 200, you're broke. And guess what? When you fill it out, it'll absolutely correlate to your income and your net worth. But you also know exactly what you need to do, which areas you need to do, so that you can increase the number, therefore increase your wealth. If you look at wealthy people like these guys, or the guys, the other hundreds of guys I've been at this facility, and you give them this and say, okay, where do you fall here? And you look at the mathematical, they're all 700 or above, all of them. And then if you look at somebody who's making, let's say, 150 grand a year or less, they're all 500 or below. And the lower your income, the lower that number is. It's really that simple. And it has nothing to do with, by the way, listening to a certain frequency is not a bad thing. It's not going to hurt you. And it has some mild effect, but this is not what wealthy people do. Just make sure you understand that. It's fake. Everything you're reading, the stories that you're reading, never happened. They're fake. I got so fed up, I was looking at this, that these individuals are ripping everybody off. I called, and because it's Kevin Trudeau, they'll talk to me. Oh, you're the greatest marketer of all time. I go, yeah, you have this great thing out there. You're doing really well. We're nailing it, man. People are buying it like crazy. I go, well, that's congratulations on your success. I goes, in the story here, well, it's poetic license, Kevin, because nobody can verify it. So we can say anything. And even if the Federal Trade Commission came after us, we don't have to verify it because it's stories. So we can say anything. We can make up anything. Well, you do have some karma here, I'm thinking. And yeah, you'll make a lot of money. And maybe this lifetime you'll do really well. But next lifetime, I'm really sorry. You're not hurting anybody, but you are extracting money from them under false pretenses. And many of you fall into that category. You kind of bought into it. Has anything ever changed? No. Think about it. Who do you listen to? Listen to people who have what you want and have been where you are. So there's 3 reasons why you fail. Only 3. Number 1, you're not following the formula for success. And there is a formula. When you listen to Arnold Schwarzenegger speak about his success, he gives you the formula right there. When you listen to Elon Musk, or when you listen to the older wealthy people, J. Paul Getty in his book How to Be Rich. When you look at Andrew Carnegie and Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, okay, those are the old guys. Look at the new people today. The people today that are making hundreds of millions of dollars, the Google guys. I was at this place here, and I was hiking with one of the fellows, and we got to talk. And I said, what type of business are you in? And that's a standard thing if you don't know somebody. Most of the time, when I go, half of the people I know. I've been there before, and so we're friends. Or maybe there's only, 2 or 3 guys that I don't know. And on this one particular occasion, I knew everybody except three people. I knew everybody. We were all friends. But 3 of the guys, first time they were there. So I was hiking with this fellow, and I said, what'd you do? He said, I'm retired. I'm going to travel the world. And that's great. I mean, that sounds like fantastic. You must have done really well in your career. He says, yeah, I did. I said, what type of business were you in? And he was kind of embarrassed. And he said, well, I was the 7th employee at a little company called Google. Imagine that, Trey. He was the 7th guy hired at Google. God bless him. I mean, and this guy was fantastic. He was just fantastic. I loved his conversation. I loved the way he thought. I loved his energy. I loved his zest for life. I love his compassion for other human beings. He was just an amazing individual, really was. And besides being incredibly brilliant and, just wonderful to talk to and pick his brain. It was just a joy for me to be around him. Really, really enjoyed that. But when you talk to people like this, they all do the formula. And the formula I outlined a few episodes ago. When Peter Sage interviewed me, I gave you the steps. You have to have some pain. You have to have something you don't like. You have to have contrast. You have to have that burn. And then from that point, you clarify exactly what you want, which means defining your dream specifically and writing it down. And then you have to see yourself in possession of it and feel now as if you're actually in attainment of it. Then you release an attachment to the outcome by saying, if it doesn't happen, it's okay, while maintaining that state. And you repeat that cycle as often as you can. And then there's a whole bunch of ancillary steps that you do, such as dream building, setting up a dream board, the words you speak. What do you say when you talk to yourself? Shad Helmstead wrote that great book, Self-Talk. That's critical. Successful people do that all the time. They have relationships with other people. They read, which stimulates the brain. Yes, they are broadcasting their goals, dreams, and desires right in between theta and alpha. There's a sweet spot band there. They're not in beta very often. That's genetic. And I hate to say that, but that's the fact. Success breeds success. And some of you are saying, well, my family was all broke and a bunch of losers. That's fine. You can still be successful because Andrew Carnegie, who became the richest man in the world, his family was also broke and a bunch of losers. J. Paul Getty, his family wasn't successful. But then you have Howard Hughes. His family was stupidly successful. You look at J.P. Morgan. His family was stupidly successful. But if you look at Stephen Jobs, he didn't come from a wealthy family. So if you do come from a wealthy family or a family of success, it's in your DNA. If you come from a loser family, we'll call it, and I hate to use that word, and I don't use that disrespectfully. My father, you could say, was a loser. My father was not a loser. He was a winner. He was a union worker. He was a welder, and he lived a great life. And my mother was a full-time homemaker and a full-time wife and a full-time mother. They were amazing human beings, financially not rich at all, but they lived an amazingly happy, joyful life. They were completely fulfilled. They had no regrets. They were successful in every aspect of their life because they were living their dream. Remember that. Whatever your dream is, whatever it is, whatever size it is, there's no right or wrong. Live your dream, feel the joy within you. That's success. Success is the progressive realization of dreams. Success is the journey, not a destination. Success is not the attainment of things, but it's living in a moment, being joyful and happy, and being creative. Whether that's creative with food, creative with designing your home, creative in art, dance, pottery, music, whatever. Creative with lovemaking. Do you realize that there are successful people whose creative outlet is sex? It's lovemaking. And they, they'll do things to their partner and they'll spend a lot of time dressing up, putting on romantic music and candles and lights and a nice meal and setting up this whole creative aspect, not just the act of sex, but the act of romance and the beautiful act of, quote, seduction, not in a negative context. That's a creative art that most people today don't do. I've been very fortunate in my life, being a bachelor, my life, to have women who have expressed themselves creatively in that way. And it's a beautiful thing. And I have as well to partners that I've had in the past. So there's a lot of creative outlets. And that's really success in every aspect. So number one, most people don't follow that formula. When I sit down with people and I do a one-on-one, for example, and I talk to them and they're saying, I want to become successful. And I go through like a questionnaire. It's like a counseling questionnaire. It's like, okay, are you doing this? No. Or on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at with this? 10 being perfect, 1 being non-existent, or 0 being non-existent. And they give me these numbers, and this is how I figured out the formula with the mathematician. It started from this. I could say, well, look, you see where you're weak. If you just increase these numbers, you're going to create better success. So number one, there is a formula for success. I just did a few episodes ago. You can watch it, my interview with Peter Sage. I have the whole unedited one here on the channels, on YouTube and Rumble. So you can watch that. That outlines, that is the formula. And again, there's a bunch of ancillary things you can do as well, but there's really 4 steps. But everything else is kind of ancillary, such as managing everything by statistics and charting your progress, associating with other people, going to events so that you can recharge the battery. Successful people do that.